Hi guys, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Okay guys, got this article here and it's about Jake Claver, who says XRP's biggest opportunity isn't international payments. Okay, so for you guys who know, I've covered Jake Claver quite a few times, and yes, I've had some critique about him, but this is to show you that I'm not just like a Jake Claver hater or anything like that. I'm always just calling it as I see it. Now, with this, I actually do agree with him, right? And just to show you, like this isn't a thing where I'm always just trying to get at Jake Claver, but I do just think he's definitely made some bad calls, and I do think some of his takes on XRP are just incorrect, right? And also, just another thing here, this is about two influencers, not just Jake Claver, also cryptoholics. And just to show you again, I'm not someone who's just trying to be a hater. cryptoholics, I thoroughly recommend as a content creator. She is a great XRP content creator. I'll be honest with you, personally, I would pick her over Jake Claver any day because she is very factual with her information. She sticks to what's actually going on. She's not trying to just like push narratives or, conspiracy theories. She's really just telling you exactly the information is from the news and from reputable sources. So I definitely recommend cryptoholics. So, okay, let's get into this then. So we've got here a live stream that Jake Claver had done where basically he was just talking about, XRP's future, etc. And in this, Jake Claver had basically mentioned that Ripple had actually used stablecoins before to do ODL for their ODL service, which is on-demand liquidity, or nowadays known as Ripple payments. And Eri agreed with this. I agree with it too. So for the people who don't know, when Ripple got sued by the SEC, obviously they was going through the lawsuit. Now at that time, XRP's future wasn't clear, right? And so because of that, they couldn't use XRP at that time, because let's just say Ripple had have lost that ruling on XRP and it would have been deemed a security. Well, it would have meant any transactions that they'd have been doing during the lawsuit would then have been claimed as violations, security violations, right? So because they was uncertain of how the verdict would be, they decided to use stablecoins instead. One of the main ones was USDT Tether, but they also use USDC as well. And so this is where, during that time, they were actually using stablecoins for ODL. And this is something I've tried to explain to you guys for quite a while now. XRP obviously can be a bridge asset, but it's not like it's the only crypto that can be used as a bridge asset. Like you can use Bitcoin, you can use Ethereum. Like any crypto can actually be a bridge asset. The thing with XRP is it's a lot better because it's faster and cheaper. So XRP is really more designed for this type of use case, whereas, for example, Ethereum is smart contracts. Bitcoin is just too slow and expensive altogether. So really, obviously, that's why Bitcoin's really called more of a store of value. But yes, you could swap it with other cryptos. But obviously, this is something where Ripple have been trying to, maintain XRP and put it forward for this use case for many years now. So it's well optimized for this type of use case, and that's why a lot of companies and a lot of networks just kind of leave this more to Ripple and XRP, because this is really like where it's based, and this is its kind of its main selling point. So yes, I absolutely agree. That is correct. They have used a stablecoin before, and I think this is what led to Ripple ultimately making their own stablecoin, because I think what happened was there was obviously during the lawsuit realizing we're here using like USDC and USDT, and we're just making those guys a load of money. We might as well just make our own stablecoin, because one, that market is getting very big, which they were completely correct, because look how big stablecoins are now. And two, it's like, well, at least we can do it ourselves, and we're, help funding our own business, right? Like we're benefiting ourselves rather than using another stablecoin and benefiting someone else's pockets. So, it was the logical step to take, to be honest with you. And obviously it clearly benefited them. I think it was a great move to do, as we can evidently see at this point. So, Eri agreed with that. I completely agree with that too. So then we move on to Jake Claver talking about, will stablecoins kind of, replace XRP then? And he did mention that, obviously, yes, they can use stablecoins to do these types of transfers. Like they can use stablecoins as a bridge asset, that kind of thing. But Jake's point is overall, if there's a faster, cheaper way to settle payments, they're going to do that. And so ultimately he thinks they will go with XRP. I agree with that to an extent. So I do think there are going to be some banks, etc., that will just stick with stablecoins. I do think that, unfortunately. I've always said I don't think it's going to be every bank in the world will use XRP. But I do agree, for most people, like, you're going to choose the faster option. Like, it just makes logical sense. If you've got a better option there, then why wouldn't you use that? Right? So don't get me wrong, there are going to be some other reasons and factors as to why, some people or banks won't use XRP. It could be, for example, just having a dislike against Ripple. It could be just literally they don't like Ripple or someone at Ripple or that kind of thing, so they don't want to use it. It could be that they're still not comfortable with cryptocurrencies as a whole. You got to remember, with stablecoins, it's pegged to $1. So they might look at it as, well, we trust the stablecoin more because we know it's backed by, 1-to-1 with actual money to the actual dollar, that kind of thing. So there's going to be reasons as to why they might still pick a stablecoin. But I do think for a lot of people, you're going to pick the faster and cheaper option, obviously. So I do think, that's where I still think that XRP will get chosen. That's why I don't think XRP will completely, be replaced by stablecoins overall. Claver also rejected the notion that XRP's success depends entirely on replacing SWIFT or dominating cross-border payments. In his view, international payments represent only one of the many use cases for the asset. Yeah, and this is something where I strongly agree with Jake here, to be honest with you. This is something I've been saying to you guys for the longest time, because even when stablecoins was first coming in and it was like starting to get a lot more momentum, and I've covered things where they've said, look, we're going to use stablecoins for this kind of stuff, and I was getting comments thinking like, what's going to happen with XRP, that kind of stuff. And the first thing I was saying to you guys was, hey, you never should have been just looking at cross-border payments alone for XRP anyway. I get it. That's the main attraction, and that's the thing that, Ripple were really pushing. But if you look at Ripple in this day and age, they don't just push cross-border payments as their, their main thing anymore. Like, they're basically they're like a crypto empire. They're like a one-stop shop for anything crypto, basically, right? And so cross-border payments, yes, that is still one of their use cases, but there's so much more things, there's like tokenization, there's DeFi, there's the DEX. So there's so many different use cases that are being made at this point as to why you're not really going to just think about XRP as just cross-border payments. Like, it's not like if they fail at this, that's it, it's game over for XRP. No. Now, will it mean it won't be as successful? I can't really answer that, right? I don't know, because it could be a thing where, for example, cross-border payments doesn't go as well as they hope, but then they could majorly take over in tokenization, or they could end up taking over in another market, right? And that ends up bringing them like real great success. There could be a huge DeFi platform. So it's hard to say for sure because nobody really knows. But I definitely don't think it's like all hanging on the balance of just cross-border payments. And I've been trying to say that to you guys for the longest time. Like, don't just focus on cross-border payments. And I've even said this, don't even just focus on Ripple. There's other developers out there, right? Now, don't get me wrong, Ripple are the biggest ones and the most powerful, obviously, of course. But there's other people trying to bring utility to XRP. There's other developers out there, right? Panos is one that I think about who comes to mind, and he's a real great mind in the XRP space. So there's plenty of other people who are trying to make utility for XRP, and bring demand. So yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I don't think you should be thinking of it as just like a one based feature that XRP has and everything hangs on the balance of that one thing. Nah, absolutely not. I don't agree with that at all. So Eri agreed with that. Again, I obviously agree with that too. And one of the things that Eri also said, and this is something, this is why I say Eri's really great. She said, you should be looking at, the news and stuff that you're seeing that's actually happening rather than just like tweets that are being circulated online and narratives. And that's me as a whole. I completely agree with Eri there. That's why I'm the type of content creator I am. Like, I'm not here to push conspiracy theories. I'm not here to push, just wild, putting dots together, 2 and 2 equals 6 and, that kind of thing. Like, I'm here to kind of just give you what I see, evidence based, right? And so this is why I agree, overall, like, look at what's actually happening. Because the thing is, a lot of times, like, I'm not saying that all conspiracy theories are lies, but a lot of the times the truth is kind of there for you to see. And you've had like David Schwartz lately telling you guys like, there's no big conspiracy behind XRP. There's nothing secret going on behind Ripple or anything like that. Like, we're just trying to get XRP adopted like everyone else. We're just trying our best to make the company successful and help get XRP utilized, right? So I think the truth is kind of clear to see. And so, yes, overall, the sentiment of this is, it's not going to just hang on just cross-border payments. You know, yes, that was Ripple's vision for XRP at the beginning, but, you know, there was a meeting with David Schwartz, and I covered this a while back now. I think it was like last year. And, you know, David Schwartz said, look, like, yes, that was originally the vision. We thought that the cross-border payment thing would be the main selling point for XRP. And he said we were wrong. It didn't work out the way we expected it to. He admitted that. So he says, you know, now... So we said, you know, now we've got to kind of catch up and, you know, look at other markets, look at other types of ways that we can get XRP utilized. So David Schwartz acknowledged this himself. So at the end of the day, like, it's not a thing where this means, again, cross-border payments has completely failed. It's just not going to be as big as even Ripple thought it was. I think Ripple at the beginning did think, and again, not to say that every bank in the world will use it, but I think they thought it would be a lot more successful than they originally anticipated. But you got to remember, like, when Ripple first came out, stablecoins didn't exist. So you've got to remember, like, even at that point, they probably thought, well, yeah, like, we're the only asset around at this time that is doing what we do, right? And so they were just thinking, like, yeah, this is an idea that's going to work really well. And it still does work really well, but it's just not took off the way they expected. And it's a shame, because I'll be honest with you, I do think, you know, XRP being used as a bridge asset, I think it's a really great use case. It is really big. I am kind of surprised myself, to be honest with you, because the thing with stablecoins is you're accepting other people's, you know, risk, basically. And, you know, the thought of countries being happy to use other people's stablecoins and stuff like that, I find it kind of strange, but we are where we are. Like, the truth is just the truth. We can see what's going on. So I'm not going to ignore that, but I do find it strange. And this is why I do say, as Jake said, and I agree with this, I think when there's a faster and cheaper option, I do think that's still going to have its place. And that's why I still think XRP will be utilized in that regard. So yeah, thought I'd share this with you, because there's been a lot of information over the last, you know, few months or say a year, where I think we've seen a lot more reality-based things happening, where we've seen where XRP is going. And I hope it's helped for the people who, you know, are still having the big dreamers, just because, like, I hope it's just helping them to see. And I don't mean this in a mean way, but it's just to help them see, like, what the reality is more, and just help them be a bit more grounded with their expectations, you know, because I just worry for these people. And this is true. Like, you might think I'm saying this to be condescending. I'm really not. Like, my thing about this is, like, we're all here to make money at the end of the day. I'm wishing everybody to try and help and make money. That's what I want everybody to do, because that's what we're all here for. And this is a huge opportunity. And I just hate to see people end up losing out, because some people have been very deceptive about the things that they've said about XRP. And it's got people believing in something that's just not realistic. And so they keep waiting for something that's never going to come. That's all it is. So yeah, hopefully this has helped. But overall, XRP is not, you know, its whole future isn't just hanging on cross-border payments. I completely agree with Jake on that. And once again, Eri, she's a great content creator, so I definitely recommend you check her out. She does really great content. I'll leave it there. If you did like this video, please remember to like, comment and subscribe so you can be updated for future XRP content. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be alerted on when I do drop a new video. Thank you very much for watching this, and I'll see you all on the next one.